come and be the hope in all our lives. Though chaos and confusion still survives, we know the path of hate all too well. We need our God with us, Emmanuel. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to us, and all things shall be well.
O come, O come. Come as you are, whoever you are, wherever you are. Come knowing you are a beloved child of the Holy One. Come and worship with us, Robson Valley Shared Ministry. I'm Kim, the minister here with McBride and Valemount Anglican United Churches. Welcome to our time of worship. It's a short time of worship. If you remember last week, I'm on study leave, so this is just a small little clip to start us off with Advent. Today is the first Sunday of Advent, the first day of the church year, and the Sunday where we talk about hope. We light our candle of hope on the first Sunday in Advent. And so just as we get started, the invitation is to feel your feet on the land and to give thanks for the land, to give thanks for the first peoples of this land. You'll see that we have the small pair of moccasins. Our hope is that we pay attention to the deaths and the violence that First Nations people have experienced, kids especially, at Indian residential schools, and the way that Indigenous peoples have been treated in this land. And so we hope that you pay attention to the small pair of moccasins as we remember tragic unmarked graves at residential schools, and as we work to live with respect, to walk in right relations with our Indigenous peoples of this land. And so we move into a time of worship, acknowledging the land. Here in McBride and Valemount, we give thanks to the Claytonay First Nation and the Simp First Nations. Remember to think about whose land it is that you're walking and working on, and give thanks for those first peoples. As I said, this is just a short little clip this morning to start us off on First Advent Sunday. I want to give thanks to resources, name resources, and give thanks to them, to those people who've created them, because we'll be using them throughout Advent and Christmas. So the Advent Unwrapped series, put together by the United Church of Christ in the States and collaboration with the United Church of Canada. So thanks to Advent Unwrapped video clips and resources. And our theme through Advent and Christmas and moving us into Epiphany is something bigger. And that theme comes to us from the Worship Collective, a new Canadian Christian progressive collaboration for worship resources. And so we give thanks to the Worship Collective, and we move into the thought, the work, the hope that something bigger is at work in our lives. And in Advent, we're moving towards that something bigger. So my invitation, I have some links here on our Facebook page for you to worship with some other communities of faith this morning as you so choose. And I leave you with this music from the Worship Collective.
Open our eyes to the wonder of the season. Open our hearts to your hope. God of the universe, we are dust within such vastness. God of the baby, stars and angels sing your praises. Open our eyes to your hope, God. Open our hearts to your peace. Open our eyes to your joy, God. And open our hearts to your love. Advent begins in anticipation of apocalypse, the end of the world. Hope is a deep trust that Advent ends in a new heaven and a new earth, however we find ourselves this Advent season. As a pandemic drags on, with the threat of climate disaster hanging over us, in financial distress, we trust in hope that we participate in a story that is bigger. God is already among us, but soon we will know it. The Advent promise is that we are part of something bigger. We light our first candle in hope. Open our eyes to the wonder of the season. Open our hearts to your hope. God of the universe, we are dust within such vastness. God of the baby, stars and angels sing your praises. Open our eyes to your hope, God. Open our hearts to your peace. Open our eyes to your joy, God. And open our hearts to your love.
As I said, something bigger is our theme. And that brings two thoughts to mind for me on this Sunday of Hope. First thought, our tradition tells us Advent, the time before Christmas, is a time of preparation. Society prepares with shopping, decorating, baking, parties, presents. All good, but not all there is to this season. In contrast to the consumer-based culture around us, which keeps trying to narrow the potentiality of creation into smaller and smaller pieces, we can purchase that ultimately boils down to individualistic wants, needs, and desires. In contrast, our theme is expansive. Our Advent leads to more than those individualistic wants, needs, and desires. We are preparing for something different, something for the whole world. the collective, like food for any who are hungry, and respect for lives lived differently, for an end to racism. In Advent, we are preparing and hoping and waiting for something bigger. My second thought, and I'm sure the thoughts that so many of us have these days, is around what's going on in British Columbia with flooding and mudslides and weather. Can there be anything bigger than being flooded out of your home? What people are experiencing is big and very tragic. And we believe something bigger is present. The help of neighbors, the hope our earth begins to be treated with respect, that we pay attention to climate disaster and crisis. As we light a candle for hope, we can't help but think of the natural disasters. We may ponder the voices of prophets, especially the prophets of the natural world, and behind all the catastrophe is a hope that will not pass away. Let our hope be bigger than the pain. Let's shift from something smaller that ultimately isn't sustainable nor life-giving towards an expansive something bigger that is rooted in holy mystery and the power of transformation. I close hopeful with these words. Jesus proclaimed God's promise, the heaven and the earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. God's Spirit invites us into this Advent season with hope that the way things are is not always how they will be. There is more to be discovered. Let us look and listen, pay attention for the gifts of God all around us. May it be so, and amen. Our service begins.